As you guys know, we had a new ban list, and we've had like less than a week to play with the ban list, and everyone's wondering what's good, what's bad. Is Yubel gonna be good? Is Bujin's gonna be good? Are all my favorite old decks gonna come back? Probably not, but we do have a lot of data, and I'll tell you what my top 5 decks are, which are pretty much reflected based off of playtesting and tournament results. Tournament results being anytime tournaments in the Discord happening every single day. The Meta Weekly that happened. There was a Duel Links Pro Tour, and there was a few Japanese tournaments too. All right, so that's the ban list, the main things that got hit. Let's look at the tier list before we do it. The tier list is about to change in a few days. This will not look like this. So a quick reflection on this. The ban list messed up furs, messed up Amazons, changed masked heroes, and Cyberstyle being nerfed really messed up Ultra Athletes. So, and I will do this in order. This is in the order of, I think, in their strength. For first place, I have something like this. Balance heroes. Now, why heroes got nerfed? Violin went to 1. You what, mate? Why would this be the best deck right now? Well, with Blue Eyes White Dragon being very popular in the meta, Decider is such a nasty, nasty card. Blue Eyes White Dragon cannot swing over this. Silent Magician level 8 cannot swing over this. Also, there's no more Amazons. Amazons will cuck your Anki. You have to destroy a monster by battle and send to the graveyard. Well, Anki would never get through because of the goddamn onslaught. And then you're just forced to draw into a Cyclone because you have no inherent way to deal with an onslaught. And then also, Wiz being a huge deterrent for the deck is pretty much nerfed now. 2800 defense blocks off the Anki. And now you got the Wiz is gone. It also, Wiz negates mass change and blocks off Anki. So Vian is simply to help with the Celestial draw too. And, you know, Vian still works with the mass change. It's like a mini little Dangerous. Why do you summon Dangerous? You summon Dangerous to set up for Celestial, mostly. I mean, yeah, it's got a fat booty, 2600 defense, but now we got a mini Dangerous. So he just needs to be seen as a mini Dangerous. We are playing, this is what Balance. Balance will guarantee a monster spell and trap in your opening hand. If you were to enter a tournament right now, I would recommend you play this. And remember, we're not talking about cost. We're not talking about free to play. Simply, if you're here to win it, this is the deck I'm recommending to you. It's crazy. You have the consistency with Balance plus the OTK potential mass change. And now you have to deal with back row. Now, if you are a vampire deck, you really, you can't just, you know, force your way through. You got to get through the Canadias, the Mirror Wall and stuff now. So this is crazy.
They want to know why Mirror Wall instead of Wall.
It's, you could choose whatever. You could choose whatever. Mirror Wall is really good for the mirror match. So Mirror Wall, if they swing with an Anki or they swing with a monster, they can't mass change in response to the Mirror Wall because it's in the damage stat. It's like the same principle with ninjas, where if I have multiple ways to pull out a new ninja onto the field or bounce my Black Dragon Ninja off the field in response to your back row, you want to take me to the damage step, so I can't do that. So if you take heroes to the damage step, that's a really good way to help win the mirror match. If you're playing Wall of D over Mirror Wall in the mirror match, I would say you're at a disadvantage, but they're both still, they're good cards. They're both good. You will do well with Wall Disruption, just as you will do well with Mirror Wall. But that is my reasoning for the hero build. Deck list number 2.
Yeah.
Vampires. Vampires. This is how I would build it. This is how I would recommend it to you. Vampires. God damn. They have been untouched by the ban list. They just now have to deal with heroes and Blue Eyes being in their meta. They had Fur Hires and Amazon, so they got replaced pretty much by Blue Eyes and heroes being much more prevalent. This is my KC Cup deck list that I recommended. Card for card, nothing changed besides we are now playing Sealed Tombs. Sealed Tombs is really important for all of the decks that it counters. It does well against Vampire Mirror Match, as you know. It does well against Blue Eyes, and it does well against Spellbook. So Sealed Tombs, very important. We can no longer play Cyberstyle, so Sealed Tombs is the way I would play my vampires, and I would put vampires at a second place. I would put heroes and vampires at tier 1. You know, they're neck and neck. They're on top of each other. It's consistency with the Gazukis. The Samurai Skull sets up your Retainer and Familiar into the grave, and then you all know Familiar and Retainer, you search your vampires, spell, and monsters. You set up the Grace to pop back row or pop monsters. You summon Vampire Vamp to suck up a monster bigger than 2,000. You summon Grimson to play around multiple back row. There's really not too much to say about this. It's super consistent. Let's just move on to deck number 3. The deck I'm about to show you is very, very versatile. Many ways to build it. Deck number 3, Blue Eyes White Dragon. Now, I was aware of Water Spirit being a very good card, and I'll talk about that. And yes, we're playing 3 Birthright, 3 Silver's Cry, Champion's Vigilance, Econ. You need a way to deal with Decider. Okay, Econ, and you could Synchro Shokan with X-Saber Wayne and their Decider. We'll talk about this. So this is my number 3. We are playing Trick Up the Sleeve. Trick Up the Sleeve will guarantee a Cosmo Brain in your opening hand. It will include a level 7 or higher Dark Spellcaster in your opening hand. We're not playing Protector. We're not playing Whitestone. Now, that does not mean those cards aren't good. So before I get on with this deck list, I just want to let you know, you can some great options to play in this deck in addition to how I'm recommending you to play it like this. Remember, these are deck lists I'm telling you that I feel are optimized on my top 5 list. I like Champion's Vigilance. Champion's Vigilance with a Blue Eyes White Dragon. Negate a summon spell or trap. All right. Now with Water Spirit being a normal tuner, normal level 1, that means that with Cosmo Brain, you now have a tuner that's searchable. Before, let's say you really needed to make that turn 1 Azure Eyes Silver Dragon, and you just can't because you didn't draw your tuner. Now you could search your tuner with Cosmo Brain, and you could also summon your tuner with Birthright. So that means you have 4 cards to summon this Aqua Spirit. With Cosmo Brain and Silver's Cry, you can make an Azure Eyes Silver Dragon, and you Econ take on the Decider. You want to Birthright this onto the field, make an X-Saber Wayne, Synchro Shokan with the Decider, and also with that X-Saber Wayne, you're able to take out another Decider. I'm really upset that Decider's in the meta, because Decider really cucks this deck. If they have a Decider on the field, you have very limited options to deal with it. If Decider wasn't in the game, I would probably put Blue Eyes at tier 1. And that's why it's listed as my number 3. It's not as versatile as Vampires. It doesn't get hard countered like Vampires does. I know Vampires does get countered by Sealed Tombs, but dropping a Decider on the field, what do, mate? What do? Number 4, very, very boring number 4. Spellbooks. It's a very good deck. There's no more Wiz to negate your Spellbook cards. There's no more Onslaught to banish your Silent Magician, so Spellbooks are back, and this is a very, very simple way. 20 cards restart to ensure you get that blue boy turn 1. You can't afford to brick with this deck. You brick with this deck, you auto lose. This deck is it's just Spellbook of Fate deck. You fill up the grave, you use Spellbook of Fate, you add Fate back to your hand through Eternity or adding another one from your deck to your hand. Boom. Silent Magician is so good against Blue Eyes White Dragon, because what can Blue Eyes White Dragon do against Silent Magician level 8? If we go back to our Blue Eyes White Dragon deck, they can't really do much against the Silent Magician level 8. So people are saying, oh, I have Chalice to play against Decider. Okay, well, what's your Chalice going to do against a Silent Magician level 8, boy? It's crazy. That's another thing that really hurts Blue Eyes White Dragons is something like Silent Magician level 8, that 3,500 attack, unaffected by spells, which, you know, no Wiz, no Onslaught, and then you have Blue Eyes White Dragon, which just makes this deck better if you can get Silent Magician level 8 out. This is my number 4 on my top 5 list. Let's move on. All right. Boom. Gladiators are back. We are playing Sealed Tombs. This made it to my top 5. Sealed Tombs, we already talked about this. It will counter Spellbooks. It will counter Vampires. It will counter 3 of the top 5 decks. It could also stop a Celestial from the grave, okay? From the drawing 2. Now, before I get into the deck list, there are some options for you to play this. You could play this with, of course, you could play with Darius. Darius is good, okay? Darius could summon a Gladiator from the grave, but its effects are negated, okay? Let's also get the Gladiator fusions on the screen. So you could do the Darius and then go straight into the Esadari. Obviously can't do it main phase 2 though, since we don't have main phase 2. Demikari. Obviously, the back row is interchangeable if you want to, try out a mirror wall. For example, I said how good that was against heroes. So potentially you want to talk about mirror wall too. Now, what made Gladiators come back? Very simple. Onslaught being gone is what brought back the Gladiators. Gladiators were never nerfed. It's just Onslaught came out, and Gladiators are all about tagging in and tagging out. So let's do the deck list how it's supposed to. What I'm recommending, how you play it. So this is the deck list how I'm recommending. If you said, hey, Dkayed, give me a good Gladiator deck, boom, this is what I'd give you. You need to tag in, tag out, and banishing your monsters. That's no good. Oh, but what about Fur Hires? The deck was actually good against Fur Hires. You could swing into a Wiz, tag out into a Murmillo, pop their monsters. So let's talk about these monsters real quick. A Quest, when tagged in from the deck, and just so you guys know, you all know that, if any Gladiator monster successfully battles on your opponent's turn or your turn, you shuffle them into your deck in the end of the battle phase, and then a new Gladiator comes out. Now, all these effects only happen when they come out from the deck onto the field. When a quest gets tagged in, it will add a Gladiator beast from your graveyard to your hand. So if any of these are in the grave, you could add it. Laquari 2100 when it's tagged in. Bestiari, pop them back rows. Murmillo, pop them monsters. And Ritari. Ritari is good for banishing Blue Eyes White Dragons and vampires from graveyards. If you're not liking Ritari, the 1200 attack, you could quickly just add in the Demikari instead. From spectating the Meta Weekly, so many times I kept saying, I was like, bro, where's your Ritari? Where's your Ritari? This would have been a perfect Ritari. We saw in the Meta Weekly, they were swinging into a familiar bat turn 1 and then not tagging in for Ritari to banish it. This is good. Heavy back row, counter with Sealed Tombs, tag in, tag out. And these are my top 5 decks, boys. That's it. Now, remember, the meta is still in its infancy. Now, even though this is the top 5 decks, we have something big happening tomorrow. Mini Box Power Bravery. The only thing I expect to have an impact on the meta is going to be Buster Whelp into Destruction Swordsman Fusion. We're adding another thing to counter Blue Eyes. That's the problem. So yeah, we'll see tomorrow. We'll see quickly with the mini box release how much this has an impact on Blue Eyes White Dragons. If you don't really understand that, basically you fuse your opponent's dragons into Buster Blader the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman. That's a big deal. So if you guys want, maybe I'll do it. Right when the box drops, boom, I'll play some games. We'll dominate with it. We'll see if it really counters Blue Eyes or not. So that should be fun. If you build your Noble Knights deck, if you build your Yugioh deck, if you build your Bujin deck, if you build your Yubel deck to counter these top 5 decks, then maybe you could knock one of them off. Get that Noble Knights into the top 5. You can get the Noble Knights on the tier list.